everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got an epic show ahead, but just remember, if any of you have experiences you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can either email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or head over to paranormalportal.net and scroll down and find the button that says Interview Me, and that'll allow you to look at a calendar of possible times and dates and find a date that works for you. Love to hear your stories, so definitely get in touch with me. Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal podcast. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the love and support I continue to get from you guys. It really means the world to me, and rest assured I'm bringing you another epic adventure of paranormal goodness and fun. We have Monica Rawlins of our Paranormal World rejoining us here on the show for her second appearance. And we're going to dive into more of her strange life and strange experiences and talk about the weird and wonderful world of the paranormal. So I hope you guys are ready. We're going in. Hey, Monica, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brent. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's always fun. I've had a great time talking to you, both on air and off the air. I think you're a fantastic and fun person, and I had a lot of fun last time, so I was really anxious to get you back on again. And so thanks for coming back because, you know, we have a good time.
We do.
So
yeah, we've been on shows together since then. Yeah, I think you've come on my show, and you've popped in on, what was it, BMR show on Saturday night?
Yeah, a couple times.
A couple of those. Yeah.
I've seen you. It gets a little hard on those nights because it's like following. Usually I'm on at least doing my own show, but after a full day of my life and then my show and maybe another show in there too, and then to close out with Rob, by then I'm running on fumes, but it's still a good time hanging out with all you guys. So thanks for making me a part of the pack of what does Tex say? The misfit toys.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Tex likes to call us. And it's appropriate, I think.
Yeah. I think we're all misfits, and that's maybe why I fit in so well. But so last time you were on, you talked about several of your experiences, but you had a bunch more to talk about. So where are we going first tonight?
Yeah, part 2. Monica, part 2.
The sequel.
She's back with her paranormal weirdness. Okay, so the first one, I think we can talk about the phantom car.
Oh,
and that will lead into the goblin or whatever, red cap, whatever it was that I saw, because it wasn't on the same night, but it's in the same area of East Texas.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, this is a place. I lived in East Texas for a number of years. And this is a place that I was introduced to by a research assistant when I first started with the TBRC way back in the early 2000s.
Oh.
And this was my research area. And it proved beneficial because it was on a lake. It was a small campground. It was surrounded mostly by water. There's some timberland off to the one side of it that you could wander around in and do research, and that's what we did. But on this particular night that I had the phantom car experience, I had driven down from Dallas. I'd moved out of East Texas at this point, and I was conducting a training camp for, I think it was the TBRC, but some group. I was doing a training camp, and I came down early to set up. And I had my friend Melissa in the car with me, and the drive from Dallas is pretty hefty. So we rolled into the campsite it was definitely after midnight. And one of my fellow members who lived in Louisiana actually had arrived a little bit before we did. And I had reserved some camping spots that are kind of off, separated away from the main camping grounds. They're like 5 or 6 spots that are separated by a small dirt road. You have to drive through the campground and then hook a left, and then there's an area that is isolated, and that's where I chose to camp for the weekend with everybody and do our training. We wouldn't be disturbed by other people. That's my favorite spot within that park.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't camp in there. He got a camp in the main area, which was fine. So we drove by and saw him, and he was still setting up his camp when we got there. And I said, well, when you're done, you mind coming over and helping us, at least with some headlights, extra light never hurts because it's pretty dark back there. And he said, yeah, sure. When I'm done, I'll come over there. And this is in the summertime. So it is stifling hot, right?
Yeah.
We're in the South. It's swampy anyway, but you're on water. You can barely breathe. And my friend Melissa and I drove off, to the campsite, and we parked, and I sat there with the car running, just enjoying the air conditioning because I knew that was going to end soon. And we sat there for a minute, and I remember I had my eyes closed and I had my head back on the headrest, and I heard tires crunching on gravel, like there's a car coming up behind us.
Oh.
And I opened my eyes, and the interior of my car is flooded with light. I look in my side view mirror, and I can see headlights rolling up behind us. I can hear the gravel crunching, and clearly there's a car pulling up, and then it kills its light, the headlights, and I see it was like an incandescent light. The filament still glows. It goes out and you can still see the filament.
Right.
And I noticed that, and didn't dawn on me that that's a little weird for a car these days. But I'm thinking, and I looked at my friend and I said, man, he didn't have to come so quick. He could have taken his time. I don't want to get out of this air conditioning. And she said, no, I know, right? And so we both got out of the car at the same time. And I'm like, I have my head kind of tilted back getting out of the car, like I'm griping. And I walked to the back of the car. There is no car behind me. There is no car behind me at all. There is nothing there. My friend Melissa and I are at my trunk looking at each other. And I said, I did not, you saw the lights in the car, right? I did not imagine that. Like, you heard the tires and you saw the lights, right? She said, oh yeah. Yeah, somebody pulled up behind us.
Wow.
And she was like, I want to get back in the car. So, we got back in there and waited, and maybe 15 minutes later, my other friend drove up, and, I made sure it was really him. I mean, I could see it was his truck, but it was clearly him. And we told him what happened, and he thought that was odd. And he was 100% believed in ghosts. I mean, he was very much into, this. And you won't find that always with Bigfoot researchers. A lot of times I find that they're like, oh, everything else can't possibly be real. It's only this one thing.
Yeah.
But he was not like that. And he's like, oh yeah, that was weird. But he must have been tired, because he was like, yeah, cool story, bro. Let's put up your tent. So we did. We set the tent up, and we spent the night out in the tent. And I was, a little anxious, wondering if anything else was going to happen.
Yeah.
My friend was more worried about the gators because if you go to this place in the springtime, you can hear that low, the rumble where they bump the water. It's really cool to hear. Uh-huh. And that place is chock full of gators.
Oh.
But she was a little more worried about the gators, and I was a little more worried about, what other paranormal wonderful things are going to happen to us here.
Right. But it was just that one event that night. It was just this strange.
Yeah, just that night. I didn't have anything else weird during that whole trip, right? We didn't have anything else weird happen, because the next morning everybody else started showing up, and that place just filled right up with everyone.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have some just about the headlights. Did you get the idea or the impression, thinking back on it, that it was maybe old-fashioned style headlights, not the new LEDs and everything else? Like,
yeah, I mean, when I stopped and thought about it, when I realized I saw a phantom car, because my mind immediately went to phantom car, and I was thinking, is there a car like out in the swamp? Because literally where we are is surrounded by water, and the road coming in is the only the only dry part of that area.
Right.
And I was thinking, did something happen here back in the day? And there's a car like in the water over there that, nobody knows about.
Right. That's exactly
Yeah.
what I was thinking. Like, how?
Yeah, because when I stopped and thought about it after I realized that it was not a real car,
Yeah.
it was perfectly round. And then again, like I said, the filament, when they turn the lights off, it's not like on off like you
Right.
have now. It lingered, like it went down and you could see the filament just for a brief second.
Right. Like it's
I mean, I just remember looking at it in the moment. I wasn't like, oh, no, that's a little weird. In the moment, I was just like, I don't want to get out of the air conditioning.
yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. And I mean, it's again subjective as hell. But do you think that might have been a time anomaly, or do you think that was more spiritually based, or some other odd thing, or what is your take?
Yeah, I don't know if it could have been I'm reluctant to think it was a slip in time.
Okay.
Because I suppose it could have been, but I didn't see any shimmering. There was no popping. There was nothing, that came with that.
Right. It was just there, not.
Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden I hear tires crunching behind me, like on the gravel, and I'm looking, and, then the light goes out and it just,
Yeah.
dims. And I also, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that it was, oh, I always forget what it's called, where it's a repeat.
Residual?
Yeah, I don't know that it was residual, because I feel if it was residual, it would have driven probably through us or parked in the same place we were. Why did it stop at my bumper?
Right.
Residual just goes through the motions, whether, they'll walk through you or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was interactive, in my opinion.
Wow.
But where it was based, I don't know.
That's so cool. I don't know. I've heard the stories of like phantom cars where it's like you're driving on this road and suddenly there's headlights behind you doing the erratic stuff, and then boom, they just disappear and are gone and such. But this is the first account I've ever heard of where somebody was just, stopped and at an idle position, and you could hear the interaction of the tires on the gravel, and then, turn to see the lights dimming down as the incandescent bulb cooled or whatever. And so it's a very unique experience, but I imagine that's got to be kind of unnerving though, right?
It was. And I was very unnerved, like I said, for the rest of the night. Like, I was reluctant to go to sleep. My friend was more worried about the gators, and I was like, they're not going to attack a tent. I'm worried about whatever just rolled up on us.
That's really
Is it going to come back? Is it going to roll up on the tent? Like,
right. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That's crazy. That's a unique story for me. That's the first time I've heard one like that, but that's pretty incredible. How long ago was this?
Oh gosh, this was, I was already in Dallas, so it was probably, 2008.
2000.
Between 2006 and 2008, I would guess.
Okay.
It was somewhere in there. It might have been early. No, because I would say it was probably in there.
That's intense. Very intense.
That is intense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had filmed Monster Quest yet then.
Oh, okay.
So it's probably 2006.
Now, did you, I know you said you have another story regarding this same area coming up, but is this like a hotspot for Bigfoot, and are there other strange reports coming out of this area?
So the area in general, well, East Texas in general, is a pretty decent just area for Bigfoot sightings.
Sure.
And the whole reason that I was introduced to this particular park was for Bigfoot research. This guy that was my research assistant, he felt very strongly that they were in there. And I am sure that there was something in there. Now, whether it was Bigfoot, whether it was Dogman, I don't know. Because, I mean, one of the stories I'll talk about later, something was shadowing me in the tree line at night in the same area. It was always in that back area or going towards that back area. Oh. Because it's kind of separated from the main camp and it's isolated. And it's got this forest land that I talked about, like right there, and then the swamp surrounding it. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely something there.
Yikes. Wow, that's pretty cool. So what happens next then, or where do we go next?
Like chronologically, I'm kind of bouncing around.
Sure, and that's fine. Just
Yeah. So the next one happened after the Phantom car experience.
okay.
I was there with a group of women doing a research weekend, and they wanted East Texas, so I took them to East Texas. And if we're going to East Texas, this is the place that I will always stay. And just because, for obvious reasons, just because of what happens while we're there. And we were coming back. The actual research we were doing was off site. It was back in the woods in another area. And we were coming back. It was pretty late at night. And I don't even remember. I mean, it was 2 a.m, 3 a.m. It was really late. And I was in the back seat of my friend, her truck, and she was in the front seat talking to another researcher. And we were on the back stretch of road going towards this remote area of camp. And we'd already broken off from it wasn't too far actually from where you break off from the main camping grounds. And there's sporadic, there's park lights, but they're not grouped very close together, obviously, because you're camping. But we just happened to be near one of the lights driving towards camp, and the road is paved, and then there's a shoulder of grass, and then some tall grass, and then the trees, And as we're driving, I'm just, I've kind of got my head against the window and I'm just looking. And movement catches my eyes. And I look over kind of into the grass, pretty far into the grass. And there's this goblin, red cat. I don't know what it was. I call it a little being, a little person. I don't know. A person's probably the wrong word. But it was maybe 2 feet tall, walking along, in the direction of our camp. It was going towards our camp.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, what is that? And it didn't, thank goodness, look at me, because I did not want it to notice me, because I'm thinking Faye. I'm thinking Faye, I don't want it to know that I can see it.
Oh.
And I was just like, I'd become very animated in the back seat. And I'm telling the girls in the front seat, are you seeing this? And they're, continue their conversation. They're like, what? And I was like, there's something walking out there. And they kind of were like, oh, it's, a raccoon or whatever.
Oh,
I'm like, no, but I'm, because these are Bigfoot researchers, and I have a reputation for being quite rational and sane, and I don't want to be like, I see a red cap fairy in the field over there. Sure. I don't want to do that, because then I'd be, labeled as a cuckoo person, and I don't particularly want that label.
It's fair enough, yeah.
And because I'm deep in my research at this point, and your reputation means a lot, and I'd like to keep it nice. And so I didn't explain what I saw. I just said, did you see that out there? And they said, yeah, we didn't see anything. It was a raccoon or whatever. And so, but this thing, I don't know, fae, it was definitely a fae in my opinion. It was a goblin. I think it was a goblin.
Okay.
And, but it was wearing very like earthy toned clothing, very, it didn't look particularly clean, but it didn't have like dirt streaks. It was just, muted earth tones like greens, but its cap was red.
Oh.
And it just looked mean. It looked mean. And I remember it had like a real heavy face and a real pronounced nose. And I remember seeing the lines, like right here, when you get lines in your cheeks, It had that.
Oh.
And I was just thinking, God, it didn't see me. Thank God I didn't want it to see me, especially if it's a fae. And I didn't like that it was walking towards our camp, in the direction of our camp. Now, it wasn't right on the camp, but it was, close enough. And I remember, once we got back to camp, my camp was the first one you would come into, the first one you would encounter coming into the camp. And I didn't have a tent. I was sleeping in the back of my SUV for the weekend, and because it was going to be cold and I thought it would be warmer in my car. So I remember getting back to camp. I crawled in there, the back of my SUV, and I just remember thinking, God, I hope I don't have to pee in the middle of the night. I hope I go straight to sleep. I hope I don't wake back up because I'm dreading having to wake up for whatever reason. And there's this nasty little thing and this horrible face looking at me in the window. I was thinking, I don't know that I could handle that. I'd lose it.
Yeah,
I don't want that.
Oh God, yeah. I did a Sasquatch research thing, and I wasn't really going to spend the night. I was just going up there to be there as they started their expedition, but then they talked me into it, and so I ended up sleeping in my car, and I didn't dress for the weather. I was freezing all night anyway up in the mountains of Washington State. But yeah, I was wearing shorts, which was all kinds of stupid, and then I had like one pair of sweatpants to try to use like a blanket to stay warm, and it didn't work well. And I catnapped all night through, and the only thing I thought was every time I kind of woke up, I just thought, please don't let there be a big face looking in my window at me.
You understand.
Oh my God, yes.
Nobody wants to wake up to that, especially especially imagine seeing one on the way to camp, like coming towards your camp, but then like having to sleep thinking that, I'm not saying it's coming to our camp, but
right, but
it was headed in that general direction. I don't want something curious going, what's in here?
Right. Like you guys are the one new thing going on there. So that stands to reason that, well, what are they doing? Let's go check it out. Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, and this is again more speculation, but I know this is something that you are pretty familiar with the Fae and the these strange other creatures as well. But are they a physical quote unquote thing, or do you think they're more spiritual, or what do you think they are?
I don't think they're spiritual. I think they're physical.
Okay.
And because I believe in them.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that they exist on this plane of reality all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that I believe in multiple universes, multiple dimensions, call it what you want.
Yep.
And I believe they're stacked on top of each other. And some things have the ability to come in and out of this at their leisure. Mm-hmm. I think that when talking about the Fae, you hear stories of going to Fae, going to their realm or their land. Right. And a lot of times it's underground or it's fairy portals or whatever. But in their realm, we'll call it, time acts differently. There's a lot of stories of people being taken there or like forcefully or willingly, not knowing they're following a Fae. And they come back to our world and an insane amount of time has passed where they think it's just an hour or two or 5 minutes and it's been 5 months or 5 weeks or,
Right. That's true. That's a great point. That could definitely speak to the whole dimensional or some other form of shifting where time is different. Yeah. Great point. Yeah. And the reason that I ask is because they do seem to exhibit these extraordinary supernatural ability. Like some people observe them running like impossibly fast for these little diminutive things, and yet they are also observed interacting very physically with objects in our world. So it's like, well, they got to have some form of physicality, but there again, why don't we see them more? And I like that definition because, if they're not always here, then why would we see them? But they seem to be able to pick and choose when they're here, and
I think they have control over when they come in and out of this dimension. Yeah. We'll call it a realm or whatever.
Right.
And being from another one, I don't know. I mean, maybe our laws of physics don't work the same or it doesn't affect them. I mean, if you went to like John Carter, in Mars or whatever it was, that's a little more, science-based, like the gravity there is a lot less than Earth. So he has this ability because he's used to Earth's gravity to like jump crazy distances, right? Or run super fast, Maybe it's something similar to that.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious of your take because, again, those kind of accounts and maybe they're not, but we don't hear them very much. So I always assume that they are extraordinarily rare accounts, but maybe it's just because it hasn't reached the point where people are willing to come ahead and share these things because they just seem so fantastical and out there. But
I didn't tell anybody about it. Well, I mean, I told some people, but I mean, I would never, like when this happened, come on a show and tell people what I saw. I mean, I understand the need to keep your mouth zipped.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. Maybe you're not in the research. Maybe it's just you don't want your family poking at you or you don't want your job finding out. Because trust me, that's not fun when your coworkers figure out that you're a Bigfoot researcher or you're into this stuff, because you will get nonstop, number one, jokes. Sure. Number two, anything that has to do with Bigfoot. I get a text, I get a photo. I mean, I can't tell you how many of those Bigfoot cutouts I have been randomly text like over the years. Yes, cool. That's a cool cutout. Very cool. Thanks for sending that to me. Never seen that before.
Yeah, ever. Yeah. No, I got it. But it is an interesting topic, and also the fact that there's folklores and legends of these diminutive creatures all over the world. So it's kind of like the Bigfoot thing where there's like the Australians have the Yowies, and then there's the skunk ape and the Almas and names, hundreds of names, Grogok, Gray Man, Woodwose, all around the world. And it took a unifying term like Bigfoot to kind of unite it all. Like, hey, wait, these are all kind of the same thing, and so they seem like these very regional things. And a lot of times when you hear Fae, you're thinking of old Europe, Scandinavian countries with the elves and
not necessarily. I mean, there's Native American legends of little people. There's Native American legends, all kinds of things.
Right, but it was like they kind of exist in their microcosm until these cultures merge, and then there's an exchange of information like, oh, we got something like that too in our stories, and then you realize that this is much more widespread and globally acknowledged than we would believe.
Well, sure. I mean, and consider deities and ghosts. I mean, if we look at that layered dimension thing or universe thing, however you want to call it, that would explain a lot for those as well.
Yeah.
Ghosts aren't always here, but they pop in and out. They travel fast, right? Mm-hmm. Schnell. That's a big thing from Dracula. And that could explain some of that. And, and I'm very much a flesh and blood person, but there's so much that you just can't explain.
Right.
And I've had so much happen to me that I can't explain with normal science. I'm certainly no astrophysicist, but that I'm aware of. I'm sure somebody would come at me with something like, "Oh, you're just you fell asleep. Oh, it's a dream. Oh, you didn't see what you." There's always something like that. But no, I did see what I saw. I was very much wide awake. And, in a lot of instances, I have somebody with me to back me up.
Yeah.
Just like my Dogman sighting, that was in the middle of Dallas.
Wow.
It was in the middle of Dallas. And, where did it go? Where did it come from? I mean, that was huge. The thing's not hiding in somebody's bush during the day. Like, where does that thing go? Where did it come from?
Right. Yeah.
I don't have any explanations for that. But, I had a friend not long after that encounter, one of the few people I told about it. And he said, well, do you believe that it was physical? Or do you think it came from like another dimension or, that kind of thing? And it's so ingrained in me to be flesh and blood and like kind of like, dimensional, it's not dimensional. But, if you stop and think about it, where the heck did it go and where did it come from?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And that's a crazy thing. Now, when you saw the little person or the red cap or whatever it was, the goblin, nobody else actually saw it though in that case, right?
Yeah. No, they didn't. But I was awake because I was in the back seat having a cow. Yeah. So I can't say I was asleep. I mean, if there's any instance where I feel like I could have imagined that or I was dreaming or something, I mean, I would not share it. I would be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was very animated. I saw that.
Yeah. It does make you wonder, what are they doing though? These things that are kind of in our world and I guess choosing our absence, but what do they do? It almost makes you wonder if there isn't this whole hidden realm all around us. And I think there might be, like this is.
I think there is. Yeah. I mean, we're all occupying the same space within just different vibrations.
Yep, I agree.
You want to call it that?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. In fact, that actually echoes exactly my theory. Is that we're only able to perceive so much of the sound range, and this isn't unique to me. I've seen a thousand memes about it, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. We can only see a certain hertz frequency of light, and yet. So all of these things could be existing above and below that we just wouldn't perceive because it doesn't fall within the mechanics of our physical senses, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be here. And maybe it can, like you suggest, that maybe they can come into our realm of experience when they choose to. Maybe it's just part of their physiology. They can change their vibrational rates, quote unquote, and appear here and then just not appear here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a lot of conjecture, a lot of
yeah.
It's a lot
can't
of
prove any of it.
yeah. I mean, I'd love to be able to say I could substantiate any of that, but I can't. But there's got to be something to it because of all of the pieces of all of these stories that I've heard through the years. It's like, well, obviously something's going on. We don't have any understanding of yet, but it doesn't mean it's not real. I mean, if the idea of people flying in the 1800s was absolutely fantastical stupidity. Well, if we were meant to fly, we'd be born with wings. But then, a couple bike mechanics figured out and made a plane. So
sure. I mean, imagine explaining to somebody from the 1500s, oh, there's this thing, there's this metal box that I talk into, and I can talk to anybody on the planet. Through this box. And it's got all of the information I could ever need stored right in here. Yep. And all I have to do is hit the box with my finger and I can access any of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's absolute sorcery, right?
They'd be like, witch, burn her.
Yeah. Throw her in water, see if she floats.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So I'm sure maybe there'll come a day when this will all just be unknown and then it'll just be a matter of fact. But until then, here we are flying the flag. But I know you have more to share. I just didn't mean to get stuck in that. It's just, these are fascinating topics for me to discuss. And I'm absolutely fascinated by the little people stories. To me, that there's got to be a lot to that. And there's, like we had touched on, there's folklores and histories around the world of these things. So I really think there's merit to it, but it doesn't get talked about a whole lot. So
it doesn't. And I agree with you that, the encounters happen, but they're so few and far between. Yeah. I think a lot more people witness this than are willing to come forward. So it's probably more common than even we know about, and we're looking for it.
Right. Yeah.
But, I think that some people could encounter Fae, for example, and not even know that they're encountering them because they can come across as you and me.
Oh, right.
They can do that too. So I think that there's interactions that happen that are, weird, like what I encountered that's a little unnerving.
Yeah.
And then there's everyday interactions and, maybe you've encountered something, you just didn't know it.
Right. That's a good point. And I've thought about that even as far as like potentially aliens living among us. Of course, we've all heard those theories that they're here and they're actually a part of our civilization.
I swear I've seen lizard people before in disguise. I just like
that's what I was just going to talk about, is because I know we've all been, and everybody listening to the sound of my voice has been somewhere, and you see someone and they don't fit in with anything around them. I mean, and granted, there's individuals and individuality and all of that stuff, but I think everybody has a moment where they saw someone who's like, something is not right with that person. What is that? And it makes me wonder if that could be one of those different things that may be existing around us and hiding right among us,
No, I'm positive, personally positive.
Exactly. Me too.
That's something that's happening.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not like you could just run up and go, hey, are you a lizard person?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
would you like some crickets?
yeah, it might work. Actually, that might be a
Yeah,
good
who's buying those chocolate covered crickets?
right.
They sell.
Normal people won't eat those, will they?
No, it's crickets. Come on, lizard people. That's who eats them.
So I'm sorry to spiderweb so much, but I just found that fascinating. But yeah, where are we going next?
So we're going to stay in this particular park,
Okay.
and we're going to talk about an instance that happened to me there. And this is one of the first instances that kind of unnerved me there, and it's pretty early into my introduction to this place.
Oh.
I was there with my research assistant and his friend and my current husband, who was just a field researcher with TBRC at the time. It happened to be this group of people. And the guys, so I want to say there was, I might have been two more TBRC people there at the time. We were having a camp, just a research camp. And the guys, so there were four men, they were back in that pine, like the wooded area, just off of camp. And I don't think I had stayed the night that night because I was still living in East Texas at this time. So I would have gone home that night. But I was there pretty late, and they were out there doing their research, and we were on the radio talking to each other, and they try to maintain radio silence because they don't want to spook anything off. They're trying to be stealthy, even though everything knows you're there. And you're not fooling anything in the woods. And they were about half a mile down this dirt road because there's a gate, like the camping grounds has a gate, and there's a dirt path that goes off into this wooded area. It's private timberland. We were trespassing technically, but and they were back in there doing their thing. And I had my assistant's friend, who's a woman, and we had stayed back, and we were just kind of, walking around camp, seeing if we could get anything to come towards us that would have had to have crossed their path to get to us. And we were in that same area, like the road that leads back to this remote campsites. And we weren't camped back there at the time. I don't think there was anybody camped there. We were in the main area. So we had parked in the main parking lot there, and we had walked down this little dirt road. And she was a talker. She was a chatterbox. And she's like, and I'm just, just walking down the road. And as we're walking towards, because we were going to walk towards the gate and then walk back. Mm-hmm. And as we're walking towards the gate, we got out of the circle of light for the parking area, and we're walking into darkness, and no big deal. I'm on the paved road again. There's the grass, little mowed grass, some tall grass, and then the tree line. And as we're walking, I realized there's something just inside the tree line keeping pace with us. I can hear it. Right? I can hear it tromping through the grass, the dead leaves, whatever. And I stop because I'm testing it, and it takes a step and stops, and then I start walking again, and it starts walking. And the whole time she's she's no idea what's going on.
Oh my God.
And finally I was like, do you hear what's happening over here? I said, I think there's something following us in the tree line. And so I think that freaked her out, actually. She stopped talking, and we're continuing to walk down, this dark road, and you're hearing, and it starts, keeping pace with us in the tree line. And so I went ahead and broke radio silence because I was like, are any of you guys down here? Like, are you here, like on the road or paralleling the road? Are you guys here? And they're not jokesters. These guys are pretty serious. Like, they're not going to play a practical joke on us. And they said, no, we're still, half mile, however far it is down the road. And I said, well, there's something down here in this tree line, and it's mimicking us. It's paralleling us. Ooh. And So they're like, okay, well, we're coming there. Like they want to go where the action is. So they, start tromping down the road, and I turn around and I start walking back the other way. Now it didn't follow me back. That's the thing.
Oh.
Is it didn't keep up with us there. It followed us about halfway, three-quarters of the way to that gate.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I radioed the guys and they said they were on their way back, I went ahead and turned around. I didn't go all the way to the gate. And then I, went back down the road the other way, and it didn't keep up with us then. But that was another one that kind of got me because, I can't remember if we talked about this when I was here before, but, my childhood in Oregon, the summers in Oregon, there was an incident where something was paralleling me along the road in the tree line where I couldn't see it, but I could hear it. And it reminded me of that.
Yeah. It's such an intimidation technique. And they got to be doing it on purpose, right?
You would think. Now, I don't know if it's curiosity. I don't know if it's like, I'm going to check out what this human's doing here. I don't know. I don't know if that's what it was. And I don't know, again, that it was a Bigfoot. It could have been a dog man.
Sure.
Because I will say, like, even prior to that experience, it was around the time of that. I shouldn't say prior. It was around the time of that experience. I can't remember if it was before or after. I had come to the park, and there was a group in there. Now, the gates at the park close at sundown. Mm. And sometimes the camp keepers lock it. I don't know how, but sometimes it doesn't raise, and sometimes it will raise if you just drive up to it. And this particular night, the gate wouldn't raise. So I had my truck parked there, and I turned it off, and I couldn't get anybody on the phone because it's really crappy reception out there. And I thought, well, I know where they're camped. I could walk the roads. It's about a mile down, maybe three-quarters of a mile down to the remote camp. And this stretch that I have to walk, it's no lights. There are no lights on this one. And I remember thinking, no big deal. I can just hoof it, right? I'll just hoof it to camp. I'll go park my truck back like in the parking lot, and I'll just walk, right? Or I'll leave my truck parked here because I was kind of pissed, and I was like, screw anybody trying to being a jerk. But I got out of my truck, and I, hopped over the gate, and I got maybe 10 feet out of that ring of light, and every hair on my body stood up.
Oh, no. And
I was like, I can't. I feel weird. Like, I feel weird. I can't walk down that road. And I'm not normally afraid to walk down a dark road. I've done it 100. At this point in my life, I've done a lot.
Yeah.
But, back then I was like, it's very irrational to be scared. And I was scared.
Yeah.
And I just remember I went back in to the ring of light, and I stood there, and I was trying to rationalize with myself, thinking, you're stupid. Like, just go.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, nah, I've seen this horror movie.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so I ended up I think I sat there for probably like half an hour, like debating with myself and trying to call the guys on the phone, like trying to get some kind of reception before I finally got through to somebody.
Oh, wow.
And they were able to come get me because I was like, I hate to sound like the wimp here, but there's something wrong. There's something wrong. Yeah. And if anything, trust your gut instincts. Like, I would rather look like a sissy or whatever you want to call it, like a scaredy cat,
sure,
and be alive than ignore the gut feelings that I have. They're telling me something's there. I mean, maybe it wasn't supernatural. Maybe it was a bear. Maybe it was, there was something
right
in those woods that my whatever you call it at my core was telling me, don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it.
And you got to listen to those. Like you said, I firmly believe in that as well. And I don't know, but I really think that maybe those are genetic abilities somehow that were part of our development as we crawled and competed and to, become the dominant population on the planet. But, when you get those gut feelings, and they're overwhelming. I've had them a ton of times too. And I know for a fact that they've saved my bacon a few times. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I do listen to them all the time. And I can't always say that every time I found out, yeah, it's a good thing I did but there are a few examples of that where I have, and it's like, oh, yeah, so it's a good thing I listened. Because
Yeah.
the alternative, of course, is, you could be a statistic, you could get very hurt, and God only knows what the cause of it is. But I often wonder if maybe that's also genetic memories, that we learned how to sense these things when they're around. As we were
Yeah.
competing, like there's some part of us, some
Your lizard brain. I've heard of
right.
that before.
Yeah, but it's like maybe embedded in our mitochondria or something. It's like, when these things are around, get the hell out of there.
Yeah. And you can't, I mean, there's no rational explanation for it.
Yeah.
No rational explanation for it at all, other than there's no way
Yeah.
that I could have physically walked down there. My body would not have let me.
Right. Yeah. And then if you run, you're just, triggering the prey response, maybe.
Yeah, no, and let me tell you, that's difficult not to run, because
Yeah.
I had that experience up at Area X where that thing charged me down the mountain, and my companion took off running. I was like, "What?" I said, "Go, don't run." I didn't say run. I said, "Go."
They're like, wow. Yeah. It's the old saying, they don't have to be the fastest. They just got to be faster than you.
Yeah, well, he was. I was the one with the gun, though. I was the one with the gun.
Oh,
So.
okay. Well, fair enough. Wow. And that mirroring thing that you were talking about, I really think that these, and just for the sake of discussion, Bigfoot, because you hear about it most often in what people say are Bigfoot encounters. And you're right, we don't really know in a lot of cases what it is, but it sounds big, and it's in the forest. But I really think they excel at psychological warfare. Like, they excel at it, because you'll always hear these stories of people camping. It's like, yeah, we're camping and going just fine, and then suddenly we just had this weird feeling that something was different. First, there's that visceral, gut reaction, and then we started noticing little pebbles getting thrown and couldn't figure out where they come from. And then, we went to bed and we could hear people, like somebody bipedally walking around really close to our tents. And then the next night, and it's like this escalation where if you're in an area they don't want you in, they seem to excel at the ability to make it so you don't want to be there. And they'll do this for nights, but it always gets progressively more intense and more intense. And it really seems psychological to me. Like, these are exceptionally strategic maneuvers that these things accomplish in order to get you out of somewhere, or just to make you afraid. Maybe it's humorous. Maybe it's, it's hard to know what what they're thinking. But I always
Right.
assume it's a territorial thing, and they just want you to.
Yeah, I assume they're just trying to drive you off. I mean,
Yeah.
part of me thinks that it's a curiosity.
Sure.
It's just what's going on over here. Let's see what they're up to. They're just keeping track of us, maybe to escort us. We're on a boundary, maybe to escort us,
Yeah.
make sure we're going the direction we need to be going.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think that they're exceptionally good at it. And it's almost with military precision, when you hear about like psychological warfare that's done in military theaters of conflict. I mean, it's very much similar. It's like just cranking it up and cranking it up. So they make it so these people can't get comfortable. Even if they decide we're staying, we waited all this, this whole year to come camping here, and they'll try to force themselves to stay, but the activity gets worse and worse until they can't get any sleep. They're on edge constantly, and they're just like, no, screw it, let's get out of here, and they do.
Right.
So I find that fascinating, but
That is interesting, considering, I mean, they have to understand the size difference, that they could easily break us in half if they wanted to.
yeah,
But they're choosing not to. And I'm not saying go up and pet him. I'm not saying they're your friend at all.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, there's more than a few Native American legends of children and, women being carted off and eaten
yeah,
by these things. So
yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's my friend, but also it is demonstrating a restraint of sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're right. I mean, there's no way we could outrun them. We can't outmaneuver them. We can't outstrength
Oh gosh,
them.
no. Yeah.
This is where they live. They know their homes. But yeah, it's crazy. You know what else is crazy?
It's been an hour.
It's almost been an hour. How did this go so fast? Jesus.
Like it's story time with Monica. It just goes fast.
You just suck us in and keep us hostage until you're done. No, it's absolutely fantastic. I always love talking to you, and so as you know, the door is always open. I'd love to have you continue to come back and share more of these things, and they don't even always have to be your own experiences, because I know you've got an incredible body of research you're involved in and have looked into several of these things, and I'd like to discuss, like, maybe do a full episode on these little people and what you've learned and uncovered. That to me would be fascinating, because there isn't a lot of material out there about it. And again, I know to some people it's like, oh, okay, little people, but I'm telling you, these are stories that are as old as time, and they're around the world. These people have been experiencing something through the generations and through millennia of these other creatures that are around, including the Homo floresiensis in Indonesia, which there are still claims to this day of people seeing these diminutive hobbit people on the islands of Indonesia. Okay. And so I think they're still out there, and not only there, but that's just a more modern, current example. So, but Monica, I want to, first of all, thank you for being here. And I hope you'll let people know how to stay in touch with what you're doing and where to find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Our Paranormal World. There's a couple of them, though. So if you go into the search bar on YouTube and you type in @Monica's Paranormal World, it'll take you right to my channel.
Oh, nice.
And you'll know it's me because there's the globe with the headphones on. That's Our Paranormal World. And if you really want to email me, if you have had any encounters with anything, I love to hear it. I'd love to chat via email. You can reach me at opw.monica@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. It's always an incredible pleasure, and I can't wait to get you back.
No, thanks for having me on, and I can't wait to come back because I've got the transient ghosts and
I can't wait.
Yeah, and then the story of my ex's haunted house that I was attacked.
Yes. Yeah, we'll dive into all that next time. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. So hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you again so much for all your love and support. And remember, if you want to follow the Paranormal Portal, probably the easiest way is to head over to paranormalportal.net. And that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal. And you'll find links to all of our different social media and sites and information about the shows, including our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paranormalportal. Or just look for Paranormal Portal on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find links to our social media such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we're kind of all over the place, and we're spreading as well as we can. But anyway, thank you so much for the love and support. You all take care, and remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Until next time.